little on the specific condition of after-school programs. This is an opportunity. After-school programs are hope's front line, offering safe spaces for children. Research we've uncovered as it applies to these environments. We'll share highlights of that with you, and will help you to understand the opportunities for aligning the research with facilities for increased programmatic effect. A baseline finding in Walden's study from 2015 is that students must feel comfortable in their school environment as a crucial precondition for successful learning. Many believe that there is a great opportunity for improved communication between the users of the space and the design professionals of that space. How students would prioritize and identify their needs is collected through our surveys and interviews. We create comfort for this particular demographic of students by assessing their needs: safety, security, familiarity, minimize stress, further education on behavioral health. Needs will certainly vary greatly by location. Comfort can encompass characteristics such as the ergonomics of the seating, the ease of access to the space, the applied psychology of spatial height, color, and texture of the space, acoustical and thermal comfort, to comfort underfoot. Many school spaces are designed with so many hard surfaces that the human condition has been nearly eliminated. Spaces can symbolize freedom or restriction. They can communicate the intent of the program by their selection. Humans are evolved to read their environment, so, quote, just getting by or, quote, under-resourced is messaged through the space. The kids see it. Together, we have an obligation to create spaces that invite users to enter and stay, encourages them to interact and do their work, and enhances the joy of learning with firm support in a daily routine, and opens avenues for self-actualization. Designers must design and plan more than walls, ceilings, roof, and hallways. A spatial composition that's aesthetically pleasing, evokes functional curiosity, invites people to remain, encourages work to be done, offers a sense of predictability and familiarity through their routines, and certainly creates an open atmosphere where learning and reflection can take place. Scott Weber, in her book In Sync, Environmental Behavioral Research in the Design of Learning Spaces from 2004, describes 5 sorts of learning environments: those for delivering knowledge, for applying knowledge, for creating knowledge, for communicating knowledge, and those where knowledge is used for decision-making. Learning is active in all of these spaces except for the environment for delivering knowledge. Unless, of course, I would add, it is student-led. As we consider these learning environments, we realize that all of these learning situations are occurring within the after-school programs. Scott Weber states, quote, "If individuals need to own their own knowledge, then the only reasonable method is providing opportunities for everyone to experience and build knowledge for themselves." Scott Weber has created 3 memorable different metaphors for potential learning spaces. Imagine people sitting in a circle of center-facing chairs. The campfire represents the need for oral transfer of knowledge through the mechanism of storytelling. Another is watering holes, where those spaces are where we share information with our peers in situations where we're both learners and teachers, whether sharing with friends or college-level leaders. And caves are spaces for solitary experiences to reflect and gain insight, a place to process the day or recent events, All of these conceptual learning environments apply to ION after-school programs. And take note that it's likely, just as I've shown you these images, that your body chemistry has changed in response to those images. After-school programs function in an environment which is termed as what we might call self-direction / high collaboration settings. And research shows that to be effective, furnishings should be highly reconfigurable so that information persistence opportunities abound. At South Junior High, we witnessed how students group and regroup often during their time there. A multi-purpose room or cafeteria is an example where space could be configurable and users may change how information is delivered and shared. However, appropriate storage space is an important need for the facility and represents a significant need to make the space minimally functional. But there are many considerations for that storage solution, which we cannot cover in the length of this presentation. Serendipitous situations happen as spontaneous interpersonal interaction, termed the water cooler effect. One aspect of the knowledge creating behavior requires incubation time in order for ideas to develop. In a highly collaborative environment, interactions contribute to growth. Studies show that school building quality, that is the condition of heating system and walls, is related to student achievement. Additional research has shown that a relationship between student mobility, or the number of times that they change school registration, and achievement, with more changes leading to poorer performance. Evans and colleagues found that facilities, quote, quality and student stability are both associated with children's performance, but when they co-occur, they are especially harmful. In several important studies of pre-kindergarten to 12th grade school environments, the influence of multiple design elements on achievement were investigated simultaneously. Barrett and his research team researched the optimal design of primary schools and linked the attributes of the classroom to academic achievement. The presence of natural light in the learning space from more than one side of the space, particularly with southern exterior light, is found to be highly effective. Proper lighting, color of light, and levels of light contribute positively. And the simple visual access to the window proved also to contribute. The individualization of the space can contribute if it has flexibility as a characteristic, I should say. Furnishings should be purposefully selected with more functional zones to accommodate varied activities. A more fixed, rigid environment would not achieve the results. With opportunity for the leader to easily change the configuration, a new layout causes excitement and stimulation and messages that the space is prepared for the students. Wide corridors with clear signage reflects a commitment, a psychological ease, and communicates open access, in addition to increasing function. Every space is a learning space. In Barrett's research, the physical characteristics of a classroom explains 16% of the variation in learning progress over a year. Or to clarify, it is estimated that the impact of moving an average student from the least effective to the most effective space would be around 1.3 sublevels. A big impact when students typically make 2 sublevels progress per year. From larger spaces to quiet visual environments, the space itself makes a big difference. Color efficacy differs by age group, and wall and floor colors play an important role in the data. The factors found to be particularly influential are natural light, temperature, and air quality. Those three contribute to about 50% or half of the learning impact. The ownership and flexibility of the space contributes 25% of the learning impact. The stimulation, its complexity and color, of course, neither chaotic nor boring, but somewhere in the middle, contributes the last 25%. And I use an example of the Bound House to demonstrate that it was also found that unique architectural characteristics, a bungalow or a separate building, a shape, building shape, or distinctive ceiling, etc., seems to strengthen the student's sense of ownership. Studies, of course, are conducted over several years at a variety of schools and numerous classrooms. The research takes in a wide variety of sensory factors and multi-level statistical modeling to isolate for the effects of design. From the Scott Weber research 2013, old and new learning environments, termed classroom standards, are compared in the red and blue blocks within this diagram. Statistically significant improvements are found. The findings demonstrate that a relational comparison can be made that describes the impact of the learning environment on student engagement, ability to achieve better grades, and motivation for attendance. Now we move into understanding the WELL standard. The spaces which house after-school programs vary greatly. Some have their own facilities, others are programs with leased space within an existing school. Solutions for taking full advantage of those spaces will be varied by the nature of the space and its lease or ownership. Wellness is a complex issue with necessary wide focus. Many factors of the physical environment have a significant impact on daily health and productivity, but it is often the interaction between environmental factors that matter most. WELL guides us toward the transformation of the places that we live, work, learn, and play. WELL is a certification system. It's strategic and performance-based and measurable in order to achieve the certification. And whether or not one chooses to be certified, the science behind the standard is solid and should inspire new practices. WELL improves the environment aimed at each system within the human being. Stress, unhealthy diets, and exposure to environmental pollutants can negatively impact our health. Environmental-borne chemicals can be harmful and disrupt our internal chemistry in our hormone-secreting glands. The hormones of teens are particularly at risk and in flux. In this age group, and greater care should be taken to nurture their growth. Failure to maintain proper immune function can increase the incidence of infections and contribute to chronic conditions. Our body absorbs our environment through its layers. Diet and physical activity directly affect our neurologic and muscular health and ensure the nutrient function within our bodies. You'll see that new active design principles are encouraged by WELL to promote a lifestyle of moving, supporting muscle, and bone health. I should note that I'm highly simplifying the research that we have found and the WELL standard. So we are really just skimming the surface today. The process of design reviews or creates the entire building structure, window locations, and glazing, building proportions, heating, cooling, and ventilation systems, and water quality. This is our daily work. Even the site itself is considered in relation to amenities and the opportunities for healthy living. The 7 WELL concepts are air, water, nourishment, light, fitness, comfort, and mind, plus one more that allows points for innovation in your environment beyond the required minimum areas listed. WELL promotes clean air through reducing or minimizing the sources of indoor air pollution, requiring optimal indoor air quality to support the health and well-being of building occupants. A few of the items from the air standard within the WELL system include a smoking ban for both indoor and outdoor areas. It requires a reduction in volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, for interior paints and adhesives, flooring, insulation, furniture, and furnishings, which can go on for some time after a building has been completed and installed. Ventilation effectiveness, the HVAC system, or the heating, ventilating, and air conditioning system balancing, and certainly operable windows are essential in all environments, giving us full control over fresh air. The WELL standard for water promotes safe and clean water through the implementation of proper filtration techniques and regular testing in order for building occupants to receive optimal quality of water for their use. We've seen this recently in the Boise marketplace. Ask yourself this: do we have drinking fountains within the facility readily accessible? That means within the space that the after-school program is located. Are they the type that allow you to refill your water bottle? Are water bottles provided? Are they the right type of water bottle to avoid contaminating plastic elements? Fundamental water quality and water treatment are necessary, including carbon filters. Promoting the consumption of water makes it easily accessible to occupants, and that alone increases health. Dispensers with water fillers should be located at every 100 linear feet of occupied space. Quality nourishment requires the availability of fresh, wholesome foods, encouraging better eating habits. We are to discourage sugary snacks and beverages because it's found that we are consuming 500 more calories from products with added sugars per day. And the consumption of flour and cereal products, added fats and oils are chief contributors to that calorie overload. Compound that with physical inactivity, and our body mass index is increasing, all of us. Obesity is not just local, it's global. Nourishment then is a venue for health improvement. Increasing access to healthy food options. The USDA reports that only 8% of the US population eat 4 fruits and 5 vegetables per day. So here's an easy one: stock and display a fruit bowl on premise, placed at the beginning of the food service line and near the end of the food service line to take advantage of convenience. Restrict and eliminate processed foods, and perhaps create an activity that outlines reading and understanding food labeling to help eliminate foods associated with allergies. Hand washing reduces pathogen transmission, and that should be done via fragrance-free, non-antibacterial soap at every sink and with disposable paper towels. The length of the column of water that serves the hand washing should be 10 inches. So there are new standards for how we handle hand washing. Many hospitals have adopted the non-antibacterial standard across the country. Encourage the right nutritional messaging through whole and natural foods. Limit advertising relative to food choices. And another activity is to do a segment on safe cooking materials and cutting surfaces to, again, make people aware of BPA, a phenolic-based chemical used in baby bottles and plastic foodware that can release when heated or exposed to UV light. Create spaces that lead students to avoid isolation and to participate in communal eating, found also to contribute. Light is a visible form of radiation. Designers armed with building codes, of course, have the practical knowledge to set the lighting standards to avoid eye strain and headaches and increase productivity with right lighting. In addition to providing vision, light influences the body in other ways. Human and animals have internal clocks that synchronize physiological functions on a 24-hour cycle called the circadian rhythm. Daily clues from light stimulate and regulate that internal clock function. Alertness, digestion, and sleep are regulated by hormones involved in this cycle. Blue light is associated with afternoon light, and yellow light with later hours and sunset. Providing spaces that align with natural conditions is paramount. Light temperature is termed Kelvin temperature following the light spectrum. I'll stop there on lighting. It gets very, very detailed. And another point about light is that computer screens should be located at a 20-degree angle away from the nearest window with a minimum of 5 feet from that window, and avoid task lighting in the perimeter of computing screens. Photosensitive retinal ganglion cells in our eyes demonstrate peak sensitivity to teal blue light. Attention to light exposure is recommended, as 50 to 70 million US adults have a chronic sleep disorder. Such disorders are associated with certain health issues, diabetes, obesity, and depression in teens. Given that we spend much of their waking day indoors, typically looking at a screen giving off blue light, it shifts our circadian rhythm, causing sleep issues. This is compounded further if exposure to blue light continues beyond the workday. The human body requires periods of both brightness and darkness. Daylight modeling through the day and seasons of the year should be considered to provide exposure to 55% of the space, and for at least 50% of the operating hours each year. Natural light affects our mood, thus the consideration of the proportion of window sizes for working and learning spaces are measured. The desired ratio is between 20 to 60% windows to wall area. Right to Light addresses the need for every human being to be exposed to sunlight for psychological and neurological gains. 75% to 95% of spaces are to be within 25 feet of windows. This can reshape building footprints, and sets the occupiable areas. Another trend is to increase the connection from indoor to outdoor workplaces, with continuity of light temperature and easy access for collaboration, conferencing, teaming, and individual work. The best outdoor schools in America utilize the following criteria. Clearly, our above average of over 206 days of sun in Idaho places us in an opportune position. Many of our nation's top schools see nature as a complement to contemplation, a great place for reflection, personal growth, and experimentation. And for this reason, school design is shifting, buffered by parks, natural reserves, and great views. The outdoors are one of the best learning environments where lifelong friendships, unforgettable moments, and healthy lifestyles can be forged. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control, defines fitness as the ability to carry out daily tasks with vigor and alertness without undue fatigue and with ample energy to enjoy leisure time pursuits. Healthy adults are to engage in at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity 5 days per week, with muscle strengthening 2 days per week. The average person gets only 6 to 10 minutes of physical activity per day. It is a risk factor leading to heart disease, diabetes, and cancers. It can shave 3 to 5 years off lifespan. So neighborhood walkability and access to mass transit, active transportation, bicycles, and physical activity facilities near your programs improve the odds. So does stair accessibility in buildings. Active furnishings and building design strategies that consciously design for articulation of activity and promote an active lifestyle. They say that, quote, your next move is your best move. On-site fitness and training programs present another educational activity focus area for the programs. But you could simply take advantage of interior pathways and stairs, which create accessible, safe, and visually appealing spaces. It connects people to other people. Wider stairs are better. more than 56 inches wide is recommended between rails to encourage pedestrian use. And the associated aesthetics go along with those spaces include artwork, music, daylighting, view windows, and light levels of over 20-foot candles or greater when the stairs are in use. Active people space is highly effective. Sitting is considered the new smoking. Our culture often is centered on prolonged sitting as the norm. Standing, in contrast, burns 50 more calories per hour. So stand up. WELL focuses on reducing distraction, and irritation, and enhancing acoustic, ergonomic, olfactory, and thermal comfort to prevent stress and injury and facilitate comfort. Productivity and well-being follow. Thermal comfort is another factor that plays large in the role we experience, live, and work spaces. In 2006, only 11% of spaces met the goal of occupant satisfaction, primarily due to the fact that thermal comfort is delivered in large zones of heating and cooling. But people are not grouped based on their thermal choices. This is changing, and the ability for individual thermal control is more available through raised access flooring systems for the delivery of air and through technologies and individual wireless controls. Furniture seat adjustability and flexibility also accommodates every size of user, reducing physical strain. Acoustical zones, like thermal zones, can be considered along with active furnishings to increase user comfort. Balance between private spaces and open plan spaces should be considered. The constant white sound of low band radio is a budget-driven acoustic technique to mask the highs and lows in a space. One acoustic zone isn't good for all. Our minds and bodies are linked. Exercise increases the release of serotonin, which can elevate mood and regulate sleep cycle. Worrying can trigger physiological responses similar to stress. While the body can remarkably recover from a stress incident, repeated activation of the stress can be permanently damaging. Modern life is full of stressors. We are often reminded of the impacts of mental illness, yet it remains one of the least verbalized health conditions. 14% of all deaths are attributed to mental illness, and our mind plays a vital role over our health and well-being. Strategies that improve sleep hygiene, encourage community engagement, and the promoting of sensor technologies that increase awareness of environmental factors to inform positive behavioral change. So some of the items within this standard that you could consider would be to provide a library of materials on mental and physical health issues, or an online access to a series of links. Relative to beauty, the solution must bring the light to humans, celebrating culture, spirit, place, and have a meaningful integration of art within the space. Provide adaptable spaces that offer differing degrees of sensory engagement, and design quiet spaces for contemplation and relaxation. Ambient lighting should have dimmable levels that are low and noise criteria that are additionally low. Incorporate a plant wall or plantings. Encourage short naps to improve mental and physical acuity via couches, roll-out mats, sleep pods, reclining chairs, or hammocks. And self-monitoring or Fitbit sort of technologies monitor body weight mass, activity, steps, heart rate, and sleep duration. Our work is teamwork. We collaborate to understand your needs and innovate solutions. As an example, on a recent project, this partial reflective ceiling plan demonstrates the application of circadian lighting on a recent project at Nampa corporate headquarters for a robotics company. We designed proper lighting at the east and west walls, projecting cooler light, 4,000 K or Kelvin, from LEDs to replicate daylight, and on the west warmer 3,500 Kelvin LED strip lighting, time clock controlled to change temperature at 3 p.m. until midnight. The shift can be made with a simple time clock. In the circular area is a natural daylighting zone with soft seating and an informal community space for refreshments and idea sharing instead of a traditional reception area. Our extensive work with technology companies pushes the edge of design. And technology should not be forgotten in the after-school spaces. It's really quite paramount. Connecting the space to future technologies is key in all environments. You have online classes to consider, blogs, wikis, and social media, which are large influencers on a student need and behavior. Simulations and games can be awesome learning experiences at the forefront of interactive media. Providing for the every-minute use of handheld devices to app-connected, adjacent, larger screens for reference and sharing is the new norm. The phones, the student phones, could even be the way that they check in and out to the space. Achieving this positive environment can have a marked impact on our work-life balance. Schools recognize that it can impact student engagement, increase student satisfaction and productivity, and helps to attract new students and boost their talent pool for academics and extracurriculars. When we're good at home, we can reach out to be positive members of our community. Scheduling a fit between school and family demands is smart. Recent research has begun to focus on how certain spaces affect student engagement, with studies, Jankowska and Atley 2007, showing that creative, flexible spaces with a unique atmosphere and inspiring aesthetics leads to more student engagement. We can further conclude that specific cues within the space are proven to encourage healthier behaviors. These cues are delivered especially effectively via spatial design, together with graphical, acoustical, furnishing elements that promote healthier choices for people. A few of the quick takeaways from this research that you could consider to implement is to engage design research as a partner in your success, to improve ion identification systems and the connection to windows with site selection and lighting techniques, to add flexible activity zones and acoustical devices, to consider your food service opportunities, including the introduction of fresh foods, improving learning opportunities through seamless technology and resources, as well as user-centered scheduled activities. This review underscores the importance of applying design methods to learning environments for the greatest success. Statistically significant improvements in student engagement are documented. In this presentation, we've woven together an overview of the highlights of the latest research in the design of learning environments, together with the newest information on spaces designed for human wellness. Both the program and your students will be the benefactors. Design research informs us that the built environment does affect behaviors. This information is new. For the first time, assembling research from every part of our industry, intertwined with medical research from the Mayo Clinic, and has set out to redefine our spaces so they support our health in a caring way around your campfire or in your cave. Envision the success you'll achieve through this applied research. We encourage you to think differently. And I hope that Anna and Diana will provide to you a link to the research that we've involved in this presentation. And it's been my pleasure.
Janice, do you have a few minutes maybe for some questions? I think we had some concerns about if you had any ideas on how to get more natural light in programs that are in older buildings, basements. So maybe cutting a window is not going to be in their best interest. Like, would not like lighting, changing their lighting help? What else can they do?
Well, we would look at each space and see what the opportunities are. For example, in the South Junior High space, there were certainly a number of existing natural light conditions, but they weren't directly in the cafeteria space. So an example of a solution there would be to move part of the program or part of the time that the students spend in the space into space that's adjacent to those natural windows. A plan B would be, of course, to create the idea or create the impression of a natural window by adding a backlit acrylic screen that maybe has a gridded like element, so it feels like it reads environmentally like a window. But there might be other possibilities for accessing skylights. I don't know if you're familiar with the product, which is called a solar tube, but just providing a 6-inch diameter access through a cavity in a building to the roof or to the outside could provide a very large amount of daylight in a basement space. So there are many solutions to that, I think.
Janice, I find this really interesting and helpful, and I think that the research and the backing that you've provided to us today too might be something that we can bring forward to if we're renting space or living under a space that's been there and is an older space and someone else is the landlord of that. This might give us some information to bring forward, some research that shows the importance of improving space. So I appreciate that. I know someone was talking in the comment box about books and providing, because one of your pieces in the WELL research discussed providing information and access to information to parents and children in programs. Do you have any recommended books that would be at their level, or do you think maybe just going through a library resource or something to find that?
In terms of inspiring parents to, so in terms of inspiring parents to align with the WELL certification standard, the WELL certification standard is an easy download, and if you guys don't have it, I could certainly send you a link to that PDF that you could share with people, but it's large, so you wouldn't want to print it out. There are no books that I know of on after-school learning programs, so I would encourage, I think the best thing is the WELL standard, and maybe you guys would want to provide copies of some of this research, particularly the research that identified the 50% gain, remember the bound slide, that particular research perhaps is the most valuable of all to teach parents to influence policymakers toward, including spaces that do have access to natural light. So you might have some handouts on those, or, a list, a page of links for parents, certainly.
Thank you.
I had provided that, short research page to you last night in an email, ready for you to send out to all of the users today on the conference.
Yes, and we will send out the research, and we will also send out your training certificates for those that need credit from Idaho Stars. So we'll get that emailed out as well, and hopefully we'll be able to create a wellness link on our website for that resource, so that we don't have to email you the large document or website. You guys will be able to link to that from our webpage. Does anyone have any questions? We've got a couple minutes here if anyone has anything they want to ask Janice.
Hi, I'm with the Boys and Girls Club. I've really enjoyed this. I think it's something that we don't really think about. Usually we're in the space and kind of in the day-to-day, but I can see a major barrier just for our group in finding some different finances to accomplish some of these things. have you ever noticed any different grants or resources, beyond providing our donors with some research that could help accomplish some of these goals?
I'm not aware of those because I'm not in the business of providing funding to projects, but I can certainly tell you that most of what we described today can be easily accomplishable on very small dollars. So even though they may seem like insurmountable goals, it's likely that your space could be reshaped very inexpensively to accommodate what's been talked about today. Do you want to review with me what you think your major obstacle might be in your space?
I think something that I kind of thought about was water. We have drinking fountains in our facility, but we don't have access to anything that actually refills their water bottles. So for me, especially when we have, over 200 kids running around, that was something that kind of piqued my interest. But then that's getting the plumbing in the wall and getting the machine to actually do that and things like that. And I'm sure there are groups out there. I'll have to do some research, but I just wondered if maybe you had come across one. And I think,
yes, I would encourage, the least expensive way to go is to get a bottle of water, bottled water, Sparklets, Arrowhead water. So access to that, just a stand with a 5-gallon bottle of water that you have in the space, and it does several things for us. One, it allows people to refill their bottles. 2, you could put out informational education on what kind of bottles are best for kids and adults and their health. And just by having the bottled water in your facility, it's causing attention to water and will encourage people to drink more. So that's the least expensive way to go until you can afford the plumbing in the wall. And depending on your location, oftentimes when you just have a onesie-twosie kind of thing to add. There are, we're in an up economy right now, and so the contractors, both the general contractors and the subcontractors' pockets are lined nicely for the holidays, and asking a favor to run a plumbing line for a new drinking fountain probably could be done fairly easily right now.
Cool. Thank you.
Dream the dream. Let us help you dream the dream and accomplish that dream.
Hey, Darnisha, they also make ones that are like that, the 5-gallon tank ones, but they hook just to a regular
Faucet?
sink line. Yeah, like a sink line underneath, you don't have to go through the wall, but then it's filtered, and then it just uses your regular water system. So that's one too that's on the cheaper end of not. I know which ones you're talking about, and those are super cool. The bottle fillers that attach to the wall. I want one of those too. But yeah, at least if you ever find an extra little bit of funding, the ones that go through your sink line are doable.
Sweet.
Yeah. And then you don't have to change the bottles out, which are nice.
You just have to change the filters once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Reverse osmosis systems. Other questions?
All right. Well, if no one has any further questions, we will try to email and link everything for you today, worst case by tomorrow. And that way you guys can get your hours and you can get the research, and hopefully we can get the wellness standards posted. And so we appreciate your time, Janice, so much. The standards are really fascinating. And if anyone wants to email me or feels like they would like more information about the standards, we can certainly think about setting up some more time with Janice. Anna, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I just wanted to thank everyone for coming, and Janice for her time. And yeah, contact us if you have further questions.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.